You're listening to the Building Stronger Agents podcast, where we interview the top solo agents, team leaders, and brokers across the country to see what makes them thrive in today's market and beyond. Welcome back to the Building Stronger Agents podcast. I'm Will Penny, and today we have one of my friends all the way over in Oahu, Hawaii, and his name is Derek Okahashi. He's been in the business for just 3 years. And we're going to get into how he's done $55 million in sales his third year in the business, and he's grown a team. So without further ado, Derek, tell us all about yourself, man. How'd you get into the business, and how'd you end up here?
Yeah, thanks, Will. Well, I ended up here. I heard Will on a podcast, and he was talking about a specific team model that he runs. And I thought, man, I've been thinking about this same model because scaling out a team is hard. You know, producing and scaling are two different things. And I think the quicker agents can learn that, producers can acknowledge that, the better. So scaling has its pains. I think I was probably feeling one of those pains around that time. I heard Will on a podcast. I said, I have to talk to this guy. So I reached out to him.
Yeah, we become friends. It's good. So you got in the business. You said you got your license in 2019. Then COVID hit. Like what?
Yeah.
You said you're 38. What did you do before real estate, like leading up to real estate?
So I did a bunch of nothing for my first few years out of high school. I partied and chased girls and whatnot. And then joined the Coast Guard. I turned 22 in boot camp. Did 6 years active, and then went to X-ray school. Became an X-ray tech. I worked at Stanford Children's Hospital. I still have an affinity for sick kids. I loved it. I would go back and just work a day or two for free here and there if they'd let me do it that way. But as W-2s go, you don't have that kind of freedom.
Right.
So now we just donate. And then a bunch of stuff happened in between. I owned a business, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu clothing and lifestyle brand, sold it to focus on X-ray. Yeah, so I sold that. And people would say, you're a business guy. Why don't you do business? And I was like, no, I'm not. I didn't realize it. I was like, I just make these shirts and I just have this big international brand. And so I sold it, but in the X-ray bullpen, all I'd be talking about is investments and no, you shouldn't buy a whole life, or you should look at this product or whatever. And people was like, why don't you do that? And I said, well, when I move back to Hawaii, I will. And one thing led to another. We came back to Hawaii. I got my license almost immediately. And for the first year, I didn't really do much. I hung my license with my mother-in-law because I thought, better splits, and it wasn't the right move. And so for a year, I had put one deal together. She did the whole thing. I didn't learn anything. And
for $6 million bucks. No.
No. It was actually it was like 500,000, but that's all. I didn't do anything. I was still doing X-ray, but I hated it at the adult hospital here in Hawaii. And they wanted me to be a manager, but I said no. So I went to part-time and then on call. And then I just wasn't really doing anything. And then COVID happened, and I said, you know what? If I work as hard as these people work at this job, with my branding obsession and my business obsession, I don't know how this real estate thing works exactly, but I think I can make it. And so I found a mentor here in Hawaii, and we partnered up and went on a tear. First 8 months, 7 months or so, did like 10 million, 10.5 or something.
And that was at the beginning of 2020?
Yeah, so I signed on with my Remax brokerage April 15th or April 20th.
So how did it look in Hawaii, just out of curiosity? How did the COVID shutdown look like there?
We're about as bad as you can get. Hawaii is a blue state, not to bring politics into it, but but in a different way than like California or New York. Like we have a strong Eastern influence. So, before this, the only people you'd see wearing a mask were like from somewhere in the East, somewhere in Asia, right? Because they had gone through pandemics.
Yeah.
And so that being a part of our culture, I mean, to this day, COVID is still more of a thing here than most places. So we were like shut down.
Were you allowed to show houses there?
For a period of time, no. And then it was like you had to fill out a waiver and sanitize and like an hour in between showings. There were there was, and it, to this day, there's still some brokerages with a different climate and some individuals who kind of approach it a little more strict. But it, yeah, needless to say, it was tough doing business, but I just burned the boats and went
Right.
all in. And I read this Chinese proverb that what is it? There's a character, but it's the Chinese symbol for uh, opportunity and for disaster or something like that is the
Yeah.
same symbol.
Oh, they're
And
this opportunity and disaster, the same symbol.
it's something like that. I know I'm messing it up because that's not exactly
No,
how
but
it goes. So
there's
somewhere,
only a couple of quick changes between opportunity and disaster potentially.
yeah. So I just bought into that and just went for it.
So
Yeah.
what does went for it look like? I know you're big into physical fitness. You're a very straightforward black and white guy, which is why we get along. And
Yeah.
what like COVID's there, everything's shut down. You decide I'm gonna make some money selling houses. You got to 10 million. I know we joke around about your average sale price there, but like what did you actually do right out of the gate to start? Like what did you do?
So the sales process is no like trust, right? And so many people conflate like and trust. And so I just started having conversations. I started letting people know what I was doing. Um, Also, the brokerage that I was with, like they ran it like a team ridge, like the broker owner also ran it kind of like a team, and it was
Yeah.
small, and so they were paying for Zillow. So I had, as I was coming over, I had a Sphere deal that I was putting together, and so I started with that. A couple of Zillow leads, and I didn't even know the contract at this point.
Right.
Like right now, I would argue that I can be as crafty as anyone with the contract, but I didn't even know what the sections were at the time. So I did a couple of team deals, a couple of personal deals, and just started posting on social media about it, and then getting myself into conversations. And I remember there's this guy, he's killing now. He came to our brokerage, and he had already had a couple of years of experience, or a few years, and I saw how smart he was. I saw his potential. He didn't see his, I probably didn't see mine. And he's like, "How are you getting listings? You're like in your first 6 months. How are you getting listings?" And I was like, "Dude, you're smarter than I. You just show people the opportunity cost of waiting, or just talk numbers, speak finances, either dumb it down or elevate the conversation if that's what they want." Like really, I didn't understand. I was saying adjust to their disc profile, but I was like, you just have good conversations and show that you're the expert, and run the numbers and help them. Help them. And I didn't really frame it to him because I didn't have the experience behind me to shift his paradigm. But later he
Right.
did, and he started killing too. But yeah, man, those first few months, or the first 6, 7, 8 months, was just having conversations, posting on social, doing anything and everything the team asked me. I had a policy that for 1 year, I wasn't going to say no to anything, even if I thought it was a bad situation or a junk lead or whatever. I was like, for 1 year, I'll say no to nothing.
That's fair.
I maybe only made it about 6 months, but
Before you had to throw some limits on it.
yeah, there's some limits on it, but that's just what I did for the first 6, 7, 8 months.
Well, with your
Yeah.
background in jujitsu, you're probably a very methodical guy and you know how to stick with stuff. Otherwise, because if you can't stick with jujitsu, you're going to get your butt kicked.
So a couple of things. Not really. Like producers tend to be scattered, emotional, all over the place type of personalities. I'm no different. But what jujitsu, surfing, basketball for some people, maybe ultras for you, like you catch an obsession. So I'm not methodical if I'm not interested. They wanted to kick me out of high school. They told my parents, uh, he's extremely smart. He could get straight A's if he wanted, but he's just disruptive and can't pay attention and does enough just to get C's. And I loved real estate because I walked into an industry where they said, we're just like you. Like all of us top producers are just like you. Come be with us. One thing I said earlier to the scattered thing, people conflate trust and like. So it's no like trust. If I had started businesses. So when I came back to Hawaii, I started an X-ray staffing business. So I would staff the local surgery center with techs and I started the LLC, had the errors and omissions insurance. I understood index universal life, whole life, infinite banking, syndications. I was obsessing on these things for years and even starting businesses. And so when I enter my first few real estate conversations, I was already someone that someone could trust. Yeah. So if you were bagging groceries at Safeway yesterday, and there's nothing wrong with that, but then like the CFO of a bank or a CPA, and you guys are competing, you guys both get your license at the same point. It's not the same thing. It's not apples and apples. So
right.
What I would say to people is, don't forget that, to help your clients at the highest level and to earn trust, not just because they're two different things. Be an obsessive expert on all things finance and real estate and investing,
which is what develops trust.
That's what develops the trust. So like, if your surgeon is kind of a dick and like drives a nice car and like right. doesn't really treat the staff too well, but you have an aneurysm and they're the best person for it, you don't really care, right?
You don't. I'm not saying anyone, but you trust him.
Yeah. So you should treat the janitor like the CEO. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to.
No, I completely understand that part.
But you gotta trust is where it comes from. So that knowing that it's important, but being an expert is really important too.
But in our business, I would say we are in sales. And I have to work at it. You have to be likable too. But trust,
you do it.
Trust has to trump it.
Trust has to trump it. You may never get to the home plate, to get to the finish line of no trust without the trust. But if you're super likable, enough people will work with you to
I know tons of agents that are really likable and they're completely unreliable and they do well anyway.
Yeah. So both, but imagine if you can be both, right? You can be likable and be a real expert. And so actually wouldn't even say I've always been the most likable guy. It's not been my track record. But in X-ray, I maybe got along with half the people, and then half the people love me, half the people didn't, or whatever in terms of the staff. But when that sick mom with like a sick kid came in the room and just got a diagnosis and a prognosis, and now they need X-ray or they need me to help, and they felt good that I took control. I was obsessed with my craft. The mission was bigger than me, all those things. And real estate kind of has allowed me to brought
that right into real estate.
Yeah, man. So it's been cool.
Let's fast forward. One of the things that I've found intriguing about you is you seem to talk about YouTube a lot. I'm an old school guy. I'm starting to become new school, but how did you start getting into YouTube? What did that look like? And where has that brought you today?
Yeah. So after I went on that run of, 10 million real quick, I kind of slowed down. I actually had a girl, she was one of my high school classmates' cousins. She wanted to join the brokerage just to follow me around. Mm-hmm. And then she joined and was like, can I go on your meetings and your appointments? And I was like, I don't have any. I don't have anything. I was dead in the water. I don't have a lead. I don't have an appointment.
There's nothing to shadow.
Nothing to shadow. Like, you come sit on the couch with me and scroll Instagram, But and I wasn't really one that enjoyed cold calling or door knocking. I mean, I'll do it if that dry spell continued for too much longer, and I'll make 1,000 calls today if I have to. I have that kind of grit, right? But I didn't prefer to. And so my vision moving back to Hawaii, whether it was to crush in real estate or do something else, was to be the Joe Rogan of Hawaii. I wanted a podcast, and I didn't really know I'd be a YouTuber, but I just wanted to build a brand because that's what excites me the most. So I want to build a brand, be an expert in business, and help people. And the YouTube thing started coming up. There's only a few players in the country doing it when I started. Now there's a lot more. But I saw this opportunity to build brand, be creative. To me, business is art, and it's the creative part of business that I love so much, not necessarily the numbers. So I'm a visionary, not an integrator. And I just saw this opportunity to create brand and build a huge brand with.
Right. So how do you, for those of us who were like, where this is just like Charlie Brown's teacher, what is the formula to creating a successful YouTube channel for a real estate agent? If your goal isn't just to become an influencer, but you want to actually use it to build the trust and generate business, what did you do? And I'd like to hear about some of the mistakes you made that you probably would have done differently.
Yeah. So, I mean, first, become an expert, become an obsessed expert. So I listened to hundreds of Bigger Pockets podcasts because I was going to be an investor. And then I started like, well, you can build this property management company. So I had a whole period of time where I was obsessed on building that company, and then, form a few LLCs, fail, do all this stuff. And then when it comes time to build the YouTube channel, one of the reasons I see most people fail doing YouTube is they try to do it all themselves. And I get it, because if you don't have the revenue leading in front of you from doing real estate and closing all these deals, you probably don't want to invest in this really expensive YouTube endeavor.
That makes sense.
On the other hand, if you're already making money and you got something that's working that would fund the YouTube thing, you may just stick to that thing that's working. And so what you mostly get is people who are like me, either they're in a slow period or they're just getting started. So they're the ones willing to do YouTube, but they're not necessarily the ones willing to invest in a media partner. And so my simple recipe, and actually we started a Facebook group called 7 Figure YouTube for Agents. And we're going to be coaching, we're building a course, etc.
Excellent.
Don't do it yourself. Whether you can create a partnership. So if your video guy could get his license, or girl could get their license, you can build a team together. Now I have ideas of how I'd structure that. There's a prominent YouTuber that has a videographer on staff. So he pays about 60, 70,000 a year.
Now you're talking a real estate YouTuber, right?
Real estate YouTuber, right? So imagine right now, Will, if I come into Ohio and I say, Will, you produce pretty well. You have 60,000 on the books, and it's in Ohio, so you could find someone. So they're going to manage all these podcasts, upload it, create the thumbnails, do all of that. You're going to go out once a week and create videos and content and shoot in studio content. They're going to copyright, create the thumbnails, upload, manage the analytics, SEO optimize, do that. They're going to build out the coaching funnel for you, create content on a separate YouTube channel, do that. And, it's, if you ever read a book called Who, Not How, simply put, be the agent, be the expert, and then find who, not how. Find someone to be the back-end YouTuber for you, and you're just the on-camera personality and creative director, right? So like I direct the content, I give my creative influence to it, but I don't do any of the technical stuff. I wouldn't have YouTube if it was up to me to edit and upload and do all this stuff.
Right. So let's drill down a little bit. Let's assume you've got, because I do know this, because I'm probably as cynical as you are. You could have this great choreographer, all the right equipment, but if you're posting stuff that isn't going to be interesting to people, because YouTube, what I do know is that YouTube is actually a search engine now. So people use YouTube to find out about all sorts of stuff, including finding a home. So what are some of the, assuming you've got the design and all that in place, or if you might want to do it on your phone, whatever, that's a secondary issue. What kind of content are you, when you say be knowledgeable, are you posting stuff about living in Oahu? Or are you posting just stuff about finances or about the real estate process, or a combination of all of that?
Yeah, good question. So actually, the more technical the content, the lower the performance. Long form content is amazing. So I grab my phone and sit on the toilet or lay back at the end of a long day and like scroll through cats, knocking hot water on people or whatever. That's like simple calories. It's simple carbs, right?
Right.
15 seconds at a time, whatever. Long form content, like the video we just posted today, we posted it 2 days ago. Average view duration is 15 minutes right now.
Wow, that's excellent.
So that means there's a bunch of people
to keep anyone's attention for 15 minutes is insane now.
Right. And so they're there. Like you go to LinkedIn for one thing, you go to Instagram for another, TikTok for another, you go to Facebook to like argue about politics and be in Facebook groups. Like that's
Right.
what Facebook's for, right?
Yeah.
YouTube is a search engine, as you said, and so there's a fine line between entertaining and giving knowledge. What people want, it, YouTube YouTube for real estate is first and foremost a relocation tool. So
Yes.
you're not the Ohioans that live in Akron and they're like, it's time to upgrade. They don't go to YouTube because they already know about Akron, right? The person that's moving to Akron from Silicon Valley because their tech company went to Akron or whatever, they're the people that are like, I need to learn the most nuanced, scrutinized, cynical perspective you possibly can. Like, yeah, this street over here, a lot of people like it. The reason why I don't like it is because these trees, they drop this sticky stuff and your car gets all messed up. And I'm a car guy, and people
like that.
YouTube rewards nuance and authenticity. And usually, like if we're just at a dinner party and talking about, what do you do for a living? How are your investments going? Like people don't want to get nuanced. It's actually kind of offensive and off-putting. But if you're in this moving mode that I'm going to relocate to Ohio or Florida or whatever, you have this insatiable appetite
for detail,
nuance and detail. And, and storytelling. So it builds trust in a way, because I can walk around Hawaii and say, I actually met my wife over there. It's crazy. Like we were drinking and I had seen her before, and, just tell stories, and people like, wow, you're a real dude, So I intentionally will not dress up usually for YouTube. I'll wear a t-shirt, or I'll wear slippers, like flip-flops. We call it slippers here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And because that's what people are expecting. They want like a real Hawaiian human, right? So that's what I give them. And as far as what videos to make, like, list videos. So the 5 things you need to know, 7 pros and cons. We just released a video called Cons and Cons. And then neighborhood tours. One thing that was, now that whoever's listening to this, there's probably a YouTuber already in your city. To separate yourself from them, a lot of those people are doing list videos and in studio stuff like this, and 5 reasons why, and why 10 things to know before buying a house. Everyone can do that. When you get out and go in the neighborhood and show, like, well, see how this neighborhood has sidewalks because it was a planned community. It was developed in the 80s when planned communities are kind of a thing. This neighborhood's really nice, but since it was developed in the 50s and they're more mid-century modern, like there's actually no sidewalks. So if you're a big runner, you might not like this neighborhood because you're more likely to get hit by a car. If you can get out in the neighborhood and say these things, people are like, oh my God, I would have never been able to learn this without your channel, Will, or whatever. So
you want to be able to show them stuff like you would if you were out showing them homes.
Like if it was your cousin, like here's the thing. Everyone out there who's going to listen to this, I want to ask you, what are the best types of people to work with? Like if you could get any lead type, what would it be? And most people are going to say referrals. Well, I would say number 1 is past clients. Number 2 is YouTube. Referrals are under YouTube leads. And I don't even call them leads. I call them clients.
I agree with you, because there's an inherent trust, because there's like a celebrity status. Because if they're the kind of person who puts trust in YouTube, then they're going to also build trust with YouTube. And by the time they actually meet you, because I've talked to other realtors and people in other fields that use YouTube, and if they do it well, by the time they meet the customer or the client, that person is already completely pre-sold on them. Do you find that to be the case? It's a done deal.
Yeah. I mean, someone called me the other day and said, hey, I've been watching you for a long time. I didn't want to call you before we were pre-approved because I didn't want to waste your time, but we just got our pre-approval and we want to write an offer on this house. Yeah. And so referrals are people, there's a new paradigm, and I want to disrupt the entire industry and push this paradigm. But referrals were the best lead source because you weren't competing with anyone, but you still had to earn trust. You still had to earn trust, but you just weren't competing. And in the old age of real estate, I don't mean to say the old age, but when internet wasn't available and YouTube wasn't available to build trust on the front end before they connected with you, that was the best. Like you get a lead that you're not competing with. If Zillow would give you a lead and you weren't competing, then almost every agent would kill for that. But imagine if you weren't competing and they were already at the 100th level of trust. That's even better. And that's what YouTube does.
I believe that. And one of the reasons in the past that referrals were so important, even for the consumer, was because they didn't have vehicles like YouTube or Zillow or any other searchable database. So they didn't want to go to the phone book, which was their only other option. So a personal referral from someone who used Derek is like, oh, thank goodness, at least we know one person. But I've found that review sites like Google, if you've got a lot of reviews on there, most people, even older people now, will put far more weight on an agent who has a lot of reviews, or in your case, has a lot of videos with a lot of views, than they will on one personal referral, because your buddy who used an agent, maybe he's got different standards than you do. But if you can see that someone's actually got a YouTube channel and they're taking it seriously and they're all in, or both, they have a lot of reviews online as well, then it's not just one person's opinion and the trust level skyrockets.
Yeah, for sure. So reviews are a form of currency and a version of your resume.
And YouTube is a major social proof vehicle, I think.
Here's the thing too, Will. You can't hide. If you and I make 1,000 of these podcasts, I might be more polished and a little more kind now, but eventually that other side of me is going to come out, or the other side. Like you can't hide if you've made 1,000 hours of content. And so people feel like, yeah, I've watched this guy for months now. I finally got my orders. I'm getting stationed at Pearl Harbor or whatever. And they're like, he's got to be who he's saying on YouTube. Like you can't pretend for that long, that often, you know?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what is a YouTube customer like? What does that look like for you? Like you make these videos, you get views. What does it look like for you as the agent where you're actually getting, do they call you? Do they send you a message? Like, do they just reach out and say, hey man, saw you on YouTube and I want you to help us buy a house, or I want you to sell our house for us?
It's a variety of things, right? So if I could do everything over, and what I'll teach people as we're coaching in the future is I would lead everyone into one incubation source. So I didn't know if the thing was going to work. I was just excited to have clients. So yeah, exactly. I would say things like, hey, just call me, text me, slide in my DM, send me a pigeon messenger, like whatever, just contact me. And once we got to the point where some days we get like 10 leads in a day,
wow.
I was like, shoot, I probably should have funneled them all in either one email or one phone that was outsourced to a call center or whatever. But they come in a variety of stages. Here's the thing, renters. Don't let me forget to tell you about renters. But people do everything from call and say, hey, I just love your channel. I'm not even looking to buy anything. I just want to give you your flowers, to I want to buy this today with cash. Like we've had all of the, and everything in between. So it's still the thing about YouTube that feeds the YouTuber's ego, and we brag on, is how quality the leads are and how far down the funnel they are once you speak to them. But there's still people that are top of funnel that you're going to follow for 12 months, and you still could be competing, especially in a 12-month period. So the more refined your business is and the better your systems are, the higher your conversion rate's going to be.
Makes sense.
Or you don't have to be that good, man. I've seen some YouTube channels, they're not that good, but they're just consistent. They're detailed. And they just focus on the cream, They just focus on people that are ready to buy today. And if you're a solo agent, so you don't have partners and you don't have expenses and probably don't even use a CRM, you can make a good living just doing that too.
And what kind of content these days? Have you knocked any stuff out that you did before that you find is worthless now?
That I don't do.
Like looking back, is there anything that as you've evolved, because you seem like a guy that evolves, is there anything that you are posting now that you didn't before, or stuff that you used to but didn't get much from it and you've changed? Because you're probably trying to concentrate on the type of content that you post, correct? You're not just going all over the place.
So one thing you can do with YouTube is you can look up people's search terms and you give the audience what they want. So you can look at what is your audience searching for and then make videos that cater to that.
How do
We
you do
actually,
that? For an idiot like me, how do you search terms?
so there's a thing called TubeBuddy and
TubeBuddy, I've heard
YouTube
of that.
Studio.
Yeah.
I mostly leverage that stuff out, and we don't really do it that much. We being the profile of myself and my partner who's on the videos with me a lot, we're just kind of nuanced and in depth, and we make videos that we want to, and it works for us. Now, if I were starting a channel and wanted to get you the results, wanted to get you to a point of sale as quickly as possible, I'd do a little more optimization and keyword research. But like I said, it's been an art form for us, and we love the creative process. So we've done a little bit of rip off and duplicate and see what other YouTubers are doing, but we kind of just make the videos we want to. And in fact, we've innovated and done some things that other YouTubers don't. So we have a mix of podcasts, list videos, neighborhood tours. I put my team members on. We run our own commercials. So I funnel people into a home value website through our own commercials instead of
You
turning
run
on.
YouTube ads like the ones that I see on videos?
No, so
What's a
so
commercial
we
then?
so we are monetized, but only on the front. So you can monetize YouTube. We get the ads on the front and on the back, and we get a little bit of money from that. We're actually going to give most of it away this year to a family in need. That's
Oh,
not
wow,
where we're
that's
focused on
amazing.
making money. But we don't run ads in the middle of our videos. Now YouTube can decide to do that themselves, but we don't want we don't want people clicking off, because that's a prompt to click off, right? But we run our own ads. So there'll be a break and be like, hey, this is Derek Wakashi. Quick break. This if you're local, because we know we get a bunch of local people, if you're thinking about selling, go to myhawaiihomevalue.com or whatever.
Oh, so you'll
Or
put
if you're
your
on the
own
mainland.
ad, you'll put your own commercial in the middle of your own video. Directing
Yeah.
them.
And so
Ah,
so
that's
we do
cool.
that. Yeah, we do that. And what I would say, we don't have like types of content that we no longer shoot, but the refinement process has really been doing what they said to do, be authentic and be real. So at the beginning, some of my videos sound a little inauthentic and pitchy to me. So there's some of our old
Oh,
videos I don't like, because all I was doing was just copying someone else. And I was like, in this video, we're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
go
yeah.
over, and I look back at it and I kind of cringe.
So you're
Whereas
not
now
getting
I'll
real
start it.
animated like they tell you to do?
I don't know. People can sniff that out so
Yeah, I
quickly, and
know.
that's really, if there's one takeaway, if you want to start YouTube, I mean, use leverage. Don't be the YouTuber. Find who, not how, etc. But and buy our course and all that good stuff. But
Right.
just speak just like this. I mean, be the best version of your real and authentic self. Bring the energy and all that. But they're like, hey guys, so you're thinking about moving to Ohio and you want to know the 5 things. Well, I got them for you. Like, don't do
Yeah.
that. It'll work because YouTube's so effective. But I
You'll
start
be a
videos like
completely
this.
different person
Yes. So
when
I'm
they
like,
when they meet you.
yeah, you won't be that guy, right? And they just, you feel like a realtor. And people don't like, being sold, being pitched. And so I'm just like, all right, guys. So today we're gonna talk about, and then I might be like, shoot. All right, let me restart that. Today we're gonna talk about 5 things that I really don't like about Hawaii. It's hard for me to speak negatively about Hawaii because I do love it so much. But I'm gonna try and get negative for you guys. And don't be surprised if I throw in some positive things too. So all right, first, it's more like how I would talk to your cousin if you referred me your cousin or something.
Yeah, and when you talk to them for the first time on the phone or what have you, they're like, dude, I can move to Akron or Cincinnati and you're in Akron, and just have that conversation with them.
Yeah, just be as real as possible and use leverage. I mean, that could be the whole podcast. But
How often are you
there's
posting?
we only post once a week. Now, if I were starting a channel, I would probably do a string of videos, like 3, 4, 5 on the first post and get people to binge. And then I would proceed to do 2 per week after that.
Okay.
And I would have all of those pre-shot. I would take a month or so depending on your output and how quickly you can build the library. But I take about a month to prepare 20 to 30 videos. And then after that, I'd post twice a week if I could keep it up. But at least once a week. Once a week is sufficient if you give good content.
So what's next for Derek in terms of your business? Where do you want, like, obviously how many people do you have on your team now? It's 3?
It depends how you look at it. You know, I now have 3 virtual assistants.
But in terms of agents, how many licensed agents do you have?
My main agent and just 3. Yeah.
3.
3.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So what's the next step
4
for
including
you?
me. 4 including me. You know, that's the thing, like, as you and I spoke about, is scaling is it's tough. Scaling is tough. And as I've learned more about these big mega teams across the country, I learned more about their diminishing returns. And so where I'm at right now in my thought process of real estate and teams is being in that in between, being in that like 5 to 10 or 15 agent range is kind of the most dangerous place to be. Well, I actually think it's more dangerous. So I think that to have 10 or 15 people that want your energy, your training, and half of them are probably going to fall off and try and take your secrets, etc. That's a lot to manage and not enough return. And people's, you know, big team leaders margins are between like 5 and 20% on the team production, maybe not on the personal, but on the team production. So I think you should either stay small, consider the way you've built it and having a couple of dedicated employee type agents.
Yeah, I've got 3.
Or you got to scale big. You got to scale big to where you can afford an operations manager, a marketing manager, ISA lead that has ISAs under them. So you either have to scale big enough to where that makes sense, or you stay sweet and small with a higher margin. But, you know, in real estate, there's a lot of ego. I have my ego, and it can feed the ego to build a team. Oh, I got 20 people that want to follow me. But there's diminishing returns. Each person you bring on is taking something away. And if they're not adding and multiplying to what you're doing, maybe you should consider not doing it and just rethinking your whole model. So where I'm at today, especially the market's contracting right now, we have less offers being written. Now, I don't want to participate in the contracting market, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at scaling up really big right now. I'm looking at keeping these few people that we have and really impacting their lives and changing their lives. And
I agree.
Keeping them as multipliers of what we're doing. And if we find another great human that fits what we're doing, and here's the thing, I could have a young Will Pinney or a young, Brian Buffini or someone like a young, great person that wants to join our team, but it just might not be the right marriage for us. And so if they're not the perfect fit, like that would be an absolutely amazing fit, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And we could probably close more. I could probably introduce Zillow Flex. I could probably buy more leads and do more deals, but with diminishing returns and maybe not with the lifestyle I want. So
with me, it's about work-life balance. And most we've ever had is 6. I actually had one of my very best friends, when I had my own company, he brought his team. So between the 2 of us, we sold like 256 homes. But the problem is that put pressure on my closing coordinator, right? So it's like, and when you bring someone like that over, they want all the money. So it's like when you've got a small, like my tight knit group, we're loyal friends. So I haven't had the turnover. Once it gets beyond a friend and it becomes about the commission, just the commission split, and if it's right for them, then it ends up becoming a treadmill. And I've been through enough contracting markets, like 5 or 6 in my long career, that when this happens, when the real estate market slumps, it's not going to crash by any means, but let's say we lose 15% of the transactions, you end up losing 30 or 40% of the realtors because it hits them the most. So then guys like you end up becoming one, you get pushed to the top. It's like the sea level drops and you're the iceberg, right? So the last time the market crashed during the big crash, my business actually tripled the following, like in 2010, because we lost literally half of the realtors. So whenever you have a contraction, it impacts the number of realtors more so than the number of transactions, because it's the market tightens. But when these big teams, when they've got 50 agents doing 10 deals each or 15 deals each, now in your market, 15 deals each, they're making $500,000. But in most markets in the United States, they're making 150, 200. Or you've got a bunch of agents making under 100,000, and they're like the bread and butter in your team. When the market contracts, you end up having a lot of high fixed costs because you had it before. 2 closing coordinators, an ISA you're paying a salary to, all of that, office space. And then as the market contracts, you have these agents that are making 40, 50, 60 grand a year, start out and go get another job. And then you can't adjust quickly enough. And that's not something I ever wanted to be a part of. But my way, my little team is like the Navy SEAL team, like Jeff Cohn calls it, that's just my way of doing things, because I don't want to be in the babysitting business. And once you get a big team, you're pretty much a CEO, and you're in the employee business. You're not in the housing business anymore.
What the big team leader would say to you is, well, you're not as leveraged as I am, and you can't detach yourself at the level I can, or whatever. And there's probably some truth to that, but you're not a person that really wants to. Like, you like the business, you want to do the deals, be a part of it. And so I would say that's fine. If the people I see, and I've been talking to a bunch of team leaders around the nation recently, and the people have these big mega teams. For one, they love it. Like, they like the identity of being a $200, a $400, a $600 million producer. But it's semantics, right? Because, like, what's your take home? And they like systems and management and having people, and they want to spend their time doing that. And they want to be leveraged to have an operations manager, because, like, at 8 people, I might not be able to afford $100,000 salary for ops.
Right.
But at 70 people, I can, and I'm leveraged, and I'm out on my boat while the team is running, and my name's not on contracts, but I'm calling myself a producer. Like, it's just a different thing. And I would say, if that's what makes those guys happy, do it. I don't have a knack for systems and managing people the way that those guys probably do. So, do you think that there are, like, multiple 7-figure teams, so like 200, 300, $400 million teams, that have a model that you would ever want, that have, like, an intimacy and a team culture that's controllable at a level you'd want?
No, not for me, but that's because of my personality. Because I tend to get a look on my face similar to the one you probably get. When someone makes demands of me, I shut it down pretty quickly. And when someone tells me what I need to do, or that I'm there for them, I tend to not do well in situations like that. So I never, and like I've told other big team leaders, you're going to spend your days doing certain things. So whether you're talking to buyers and sellers, realtors, lenders, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to be spending your time doing dollar producing activities. And if that dollar producing activity is overseeing the contracts or overseeing agents, the bottom line for me is always if you got to work 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and if you're taking home whatever, a high 6-figure income or whatever it is, for me, it seems a lot more controllable than having a mega team, and the team leader's making 400 grand a year, and then when the market shrinks, like, all their profit goes away because they've got these fixed costs that they can't get rid of. Right?
Yeah. So one thing,
and they could argue with that. They could banter with us on that, but I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it's just choose the life you want, right? And be aware of. Make sure you're not building a team. Like, some people want to go into management in their W-2. I used to want to. I look back on it and I realized why I was never picked as the manager, because I'm not I was picked as, like, the lead, the subject matter expert in X-ray, but I was never made the manager, because looking back on it, I wouldn't have been the best manager. So don't do it because that's what you're supposed to do, because the ego's feeding it, because that's the promotion track that you're supposed to set for yourself. Do it because it makes sense for how you want to spend your time, to, like, you know, what you're saying. But if you wanted to be super leveraged, be Zillow Flex. So create this huge YouTube platform, create all these leads, relationships, create it in a way in which you don't even do transactions. You just leverage it to a team that you partner with, and own the lead funnel, and don't own any of the results. Now, someone, you know, with my skill level and my propensity, I could, most of our deals that fall off, if I were doing the deal, I bet you they wouldn't.
Right.
But that's also not scalable, right?
You make
I
a
have
decision though,
amount
once you start to scale, that you can't micromanage, and you can't look at people like they're not doing it as well as you, because that becomes toxic.
That becomes toxic. And to be fair too, the couple of the women on my team, like, frankly, they just do a better job with certain clients than I ever could, because they have a different touch. One's a little bit more of yeah. So one of them's a little bit more of an athletic woman who's just a hard worker and amazing. One has a little sweeter, softer touch, but can't handle as many clients at a time. So we really have a small, well-rounded little family. But if I wanted to leverage and just let somebody else's real estate team close these deals, my leads would be better than Zillow leads. They'd be warmer. They'd be more qualified. On average, our price point's higher. I could just record videos once a month and batch shoot, and then go to Mexico and go.
Right.
So you can
do. Now you're out of the real estate business, and you're like an effective agent or an ideal agent. You're then just a lead gen company.
And that's, if I had to do it over, I don't know, maybe I'd do that, or maybe I'll go to another market and do that. I'm looking at a few other markets I want to be in. So that's not a bad way to do YouTube as well.
No, but the one I know, there is a pattern though, because I know a lot of agents that are YouTube agents, and they just have a small little team, and they have a happy life, and they just do what they're good at, and they're not trying to own the world, you know. Because in my world, whether I make 300,000 or 800,000 or $1 million, my life chain doesn't change, because I'm not even spending 300,000. So, you know, you have to decide what's important. If you've got relationships in your life, you got to think about your kids and your wife or your husband or whatever, your parents, your relationships, because the more you take on, not you, but the more we take on as agents, then there's always something that you give away.
Yeah. It's learning to be a business person in real estate and not a realtor trying to do business is another, I think, paradigm shift for people.
Right.
So producing and scaling, two different things. Realtors doing business and business people doing real estate, they smell and look different. They are different. And, you know, that, so I'm in this elite group of like top agents in the country. And there's this one person, and she's always like, I'm, you know, solo agent, and I did all this, and then she's like, but I'm close to a nervous breakdown. I can't take it anymore, but I don't want leverage. I don't want people working with me, but I do want a sellable business that I can sell as an asset, but I don't want any help. I don't want systems.
It's not going to happen.
And I'm like, you're addicted to your ego, right? Like, yeah. And so,
which is fine, but just accept what you have. She makes a lot of money. She can probably bring in a couple of employees to get some of her evenings and weekends back, which is what I did. And, but don't try to trick yourself into thinking you got something you don't have.
Right. And just be that, like, be the obsessed solo agent who runs themselves into the ground for a number of years, make some good investments, create some passive income. And if you ever need to throw your hands up and take a break, you have that income.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. If you're an EXP or something, like Agent Attract, and do that, or, you know, whatever feeds your lifestyle. But trying to be something you're not, I think, is what creates the pain in this industry. And I'm still learning it myself. And luckily I have good mentors and people to bounce stuff off of, like you. So yeah, we're figuring it out, but YouTube's the way, and be an obsessed, skilled professional in this industry.
How do people find you on social?
You know, my name's probably hard for people on. My name is Derek Okahashi.
Derrick, right?
No, Derek.
Oh, it's Derek. All right.
Yeah, and then Okahashi. We have a group that we just started and we're building called Seven Figure YouTube Agents, or Seven Figure YouTube for Agents. And On Facebook, I'm Derek Prakashi as well. I would actually prefer, if you're gonna, please don't look me up and call my phone. I get so many calls. If you want to shoot me a text, that's fine. Social media is really good because it's a great placeholder for when busy people can get back to the conversation. But I love connecting with people, man. And as I do more podcasts,
I'm enjoying
like
that
this,
more than I am selling houses. Honestly, I really like having relationships with agents like you and some of my other friends and helping them grow, and we collaborate. I've really enjoyed evolving into that over the last year or so.
Yeah. So there's this other big agent that talks about, solo agent and how much they're keeping and making for themselves. And I think that's beautiful. That person doesn't have kids. That person doesn't have a wife.
Thing, yeah.
And actually they have a girlfriend. But what I'm trying to get to is I have a couple of people who've made a lot of money with me, and I'm very proud of it. And I'd rather make 500,000 and have these people make, 250 a piece or whatever the breakdown would be than not, because like this my number one agent on my team, her name's Mahe.
Yeah, I met her. She's awesome.
Yeah. And so she was sleeping on a bunk bed, went through a divorce, rock bottom in life, sleeping on a bunk bed in her family house. And Hawaii houses aren't like, Ohio houses. We're talking about small little houses that someone would consider shacks, and sleeping on a bunk bed with her kids. So her and her son on the bottom, daughter on the top. Knew she had the grit, knew that she was willing to work hard and just do anything that had to happen, and just needed that right partner. And, it was kind of like when you're ready, the teacher appears. Well, when I was ready, the mentee appeared. And her life is just so different now. We cry together. We share, experiences together. And
that's awesome. And now she's doing great, right?
She just came back. So Thanksgiving was a few days ago. She went to a small island in our island chain called Molokai, and it's the first time her family had been together, all of them together, in years. And she cried about it in our team meeting yesterday, telling us how this is the first time that she's been together with her family since she's, been doing well professionally and mentally, and so the way that someone who I care about, the way that her life has changed because of YouTube, because of real estate, and it's not just that, like, I'm like, you got to read Rich Dad. You got to listen to these podcasts. You got to tell me what a cap rate is and cash on cash. And what would you do if you were investing? Would you hire the ISA or would you not? And here's the ROI. And now being able to mentor this person and change their life is amazing. And
that's fantastic.
I don't know that there's 1,000 people on this island that I can do that for, but I'm sure there's 1,000 people across the country that I could help have that effect for. So that's special to me. And I'm just looking forward to doing it with more people globally and nationally.
Well, you're a special guy, man. Thanks for taking the time to be on here today. And I appreciate you being your friend.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll continue bringing rock stars like Derek to you in the future. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends.